All right, hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. How are you all doing? We are making some big changes to the game based on your feedback, and I will get into that in just a second. But before I do, you still have time to try the Alchemortis playtest, so you can join the playtest right from the Steam page that's linked below. Give it a wish list also if you're interested. Alchemortis is a dark fantasy roguelite auto-battler where you can use alchemy to create your own builds and synergies. So if that sounds interesting, definitely check it out. You can also support the game on Patreon. If you subscribe at the top tier here for at least 1 month, I'm going to send you an Alchemortis Steam key when the game launches, and you will get your name listed in the Alchemortis credits. But you also get all these other perks. You get early video access, early playtest access. You also get unlimited access to all of my course content. But you can also purchase the courses individually. This also helps me out quite a bit, but you'll learn how to build complete games in the Godot engine as well. So check those out. Would very much appreciate that. And we can get right into what we're working on. But before we do, let's say hello to everybody. Hello, Clickertail. Welcome. Shirley. Hello. Good to see you in my stream. RN Genesis. Good morning. It's time for Game Dev once again. Good morning, Jackie Daytona. Good morning, Ninja Link. Who's deving their game? It's me, I am. Hello, Junie. Welcome. Hello, V. Welcome back. Shirley, can't believe I had McDonald's for breakfast. Thank you for the $10. My dear wife is learning the beauty of McDonald's from me, I like to think. Thank you. That'll go straight to the double quarter pounder with cheese fund. Maybe I'll have that for lunch. Maybe today's a McDonald's kind of day. Maybe the stars have aligned. So yeah, we could do that for sure. Thank you again. Nothing says like waking up more than a double quarter pounder with cheese. Johan, good morning to you, or good afternoon, I guess, in your time zone. Good afternoon, Celestial Beagle. Hello, Code Red, welcome back. I thought you were like 21. You are 10 years off. I'm 31. I'm an unk. I'm an old man. Hello, Wooius, welcome. Okay, so yeah, I've been working on, first of all, splitting out all of your feedback into sort of actionable things. The main thing that I started working on, which I posted yesterday, is displaying the turn cooldown as seconds rather than turns. So one common piece of feedback is that, you know, the game is hard to understand. Sorry, I'm having trouble thinking because the cat is just screaming in the background. Azir! Azir! What are you doing? What is your deal? Why are you screaming? Can you stop? Why are you screaming? Okay, anyway, so clarity is a big problem in the game. Information overload is a big problem in the game. And I think, so the turn cooldown displaying as times is kind of an effort to clarify that, right? Because people don't know what turns are. They don't know that turns is just like the tick system, and that information isn't really surfaced to the player. So taking just a slightly different approach and saying, well, the cooldown is expressed in seconds now, makes it a lot clearer, right? Oh, this will execute after 3.4 seconds. And so I made a bunch of changes to the game. That has a number of implications because I also inflated the numbers, because with the old numbers, it'd be like, the way I'm doing it is that every tick is 0.1 seconds. So if I had like an 18 turn item, it's 1.8 seconds, but that was still a little bit too fast, even at just like the normal speed. So I did inflate the turn cooldown numbers a lot. I mean, I inflated them proportionally. I basically just multiplied them by 3. And then I wrote a script that just like inflates the number by a factor of 3, and then adds a range of -3 to +3 to it, just so I don't end up with like, you know, there would be, there wouldn't be those in between numbers, right? Like there would be no like, I don't know how to explain it, but anyway, add more variation to turn cooldowns. I'm gonna have to go in and like manually tweak a lot of those, but anyway, so I can show you what this looks like. And I'm not quite done with this either, because I have to update things like paralysis, which say, you know, paralyzes for 9 turns. That's going to have to become 2.7 seconds or whatever. But anyway, we can see, like, for example, the werewolf here, 4.2 second cooldown, right? So if I slap the werewolf on the board there, I can also take a look at the training dummy, which is 1.6 seconds. And so Yeah, and this is real time now. So 1x speed is like, it's going to take 4.2 seconds for this to execute. And then 2x speed and 3x speed, that's pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, I think that goes a long way to improving clarity, because now there's no longer a question of like, what is a turn, right? And this is just called cooldown now. So anywhere where turns are referenced in the game, or where cooldown is referenced, it's going to be expressed in seconds now. So a good example of this is fire. So this says deal fire damage equal to fire amount every 3 seconds. Each application of fire expires after 0.9 seconds, can be affected by critical modifiers, right? So that is just a lot more understandable, right? Like, I understand what that means. Like, there's no turn language here. But the game is still working on a tick system under the hood, which means that if I have 2 items that are 4.2 second cooldown, they're going to execute at the exact same time. So it's not actually doing a real timer. It's just running a timer that is equal to 0.1 seconds, and then it's processing the tick after that timer is done. So it's essentially the same exact. The system is working the same exact way. I've just changed like the visual representation of that number. So I think that's going to go a long way to improving clarity. And you know, we got to improve the clarity of a lot of other things, but I think that's going to go a long way. And yeah, hopefully you all like it. McDonald's for breakfast, surely not. Oh, nice. McDonald's breakfast is actually really good, though. I love them McGriddles. It is very good. Good morning, the Malicious Rabbit. Hello, Kelso. Welcome. Thank you for the, what is that, 100 bits? Appreciate that. Thank you. Please don't remind me I'm a fossil to these younglings. Yeah. Cat. I agree, this is fire. You like it? While it doesn't look as clean as turns, it's much more readable. Yeah, I think so. I never had any issue with the tick system, but I think in seconds is actually really nice. This is not just relative to itself. Right. What's the lowest time value now? The lowest time value is probably around 1.5 seconds, I think. Because I multiplied everything by 3. So if the lowest turn cooldown before was like 9, that would be 2.7 seconds. So, and I might even exaggerate these even more. Like I may say, you know, I may get up to 8 and 9 second long turn cooldowns. So that's going to be part of the balancing as well. But I think it's a lot easier to reason about the cooldown expressed in seconds. And that's also more traditional for auto battlers. So, you know, I don't need to do things differently that don't need to be done differently. I can just use the standards and the conventions that have been done in the genre already. And that should improve clarity, just generally speaking. Is that the time at 1x speed? Yeah, this is, oh no, that's 3x. Here's 1x speed. So it may still be a little bit quick, which is why I'm saying like I may inflate the numbers even more, but very excited for this change, so much easier to visualize. If I don't eat rice, beans, and meat for lunch, I feel sick. I feel that. The Bazaar uses seconds too, yeah. Once in a while, lunch McDonald's or BK, but that's very rare. How long does it take for necrosis to kick in terms of seconds? So that is one thing that I need to update. So I have a list of things that need to change here because I didn't update them yet. So we'll take necrosis. I've just been multiplying by 3 across the board. So let's go to the necrosis. I think it's in turn manager. Necrosis turn threshold here. So this is 120. So that would be 12 seconds. So that's not enough, right? So we're going to do 3-6. So it's going to take 36 seconds now for necrosis to kick in. So we fixed that. We might have to change the necrosis status as well. Oh, this is happening every... This is happening every turn. Hold on, my cat is in a sneezing fit right now. Let me go check. It's like this cat's sole goal is to derail my streams whenever I start them. Gosh. I will say this game has me interested in the Bazaar. I never played Auto Battlers before, but Alchemortis got me into them. Oh yeah, just don't play the Bazaar yet. Like, wait until Alchemortis releases. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. For the time speed, are you using engine timescale? I'm not, no. I use this for frame freezing when I do screen shake, and I remember increasing after 1 makes the game faster. Yeah, I'm not using the timescale, engine timescale. I'm just changing the timer that I'm creating. Hello, Snupbill. Thank you for the IDR 10,000. That's very much appreciated. Thank you, thank you. Look, he has legs, yeah. The message yummers. Look at that. Yummers. How's your approach? It's just, I'm just changing in here. I just have a timer, and this is like the tick duration timer. So the timer just, the timer just starts with the appropriate time. So seconds per turn is 0.1. And then that's divided by the game speed. So if I have a game speed of 1, then it's going to be 0.1. If I have a game speed of 2, it's going to be 0.05. If I have game speed of 3, it's going to be 0.03. Repeating, right? So yeah, that's it. And so the timer here just changes what the interval is based on the configured speed. At first I thought Alchemortis would be PvP. No, Alchemortis was largely inspired by the Bazaar, because I liked the Bazaar in terms of like the events. So the Bazaar, you know, you're not doing a fight every time. You could do a fight and then you could have like 3 upgrade opportunities and then you do another fight. And I was like, well, I don't really like the PvP nature of it. I don't like these kind of like, I don't like PvP card games. I don't like PvP auto battlers because it's just like, I can't compete with the people who are just like min-maxing the heck out of everything. So I was like, well, this would be really fun as like a single player roguelike. So that's kind of where Alchemortis came from. Anyway, we have a lot of places to update here. So let's see, update necrosis. So that's done. And then we need to go through and find all the paralysis abilities. Well, let's figure out where this paralysis debuff is used. Okay, so let's change this. This needs to be description utils dot turns to seconds get base magnitude. So that's going to be fixed, and then we're going to have to figure out where that's used, but let me look everywhere else. Base duration, this needs to be 12. Paralyze this item for... This needs to go away. Description utils turns to seconds. Okay. Paralysis debuff, this needs to be 24. I think that's right. I may need to update the text as well. Base paralysis duration 6. Description utils. Turns to seconds. Paralysis ability get base magnitude. Okay. So we're just making sure to update everything. Or stung. Base paralysis duration 9. Okay. Yep. Base paralysis duration. This is 21. Oops. So yeah, not the most exciting thing in the world, but it has to be done. That one's fine. Base paralysis duration 6. Okay. Paralysis modifier. Paralysis duration enchant. That's 9. Let's do description utils turns to seconds. Let's do private const int duration is equal to 9. Okay. Paralyzed 4. Magnitude or 0. So this is turns to seconds. Okay. Okay. So hopefully that's all good. Now I need to go to my ability builder, find out where paralysis is used. And we need to update this everywhere. So that's 9 there. For 3 turns, this needs to be description utils turns to seconds. Paralysis duration. What the heck? Oh. Private const int. Okay. Eyeball. Paralysis 9. That's fine. I changed this one. Medusa head, paralysis 12, paralysis 9, paralysis 15, paralysis 9. This is 24. And then this one is also 24. Okay, so that's all good. Update paralysis throughout game. All right, and then we got to modify the abilities that modify turn cooldowns. So I wonder if I could, let's see. Oh, I also need to update all of my thingamabobs. Paralyzes a random enemy minion for 2.4 seconds. Bleed applied lasts. Okay, so I need to update Fleam. I'll do that separately because I don't want to lose it. Okay. What was the other one that I had? What was it? There was another artifact that I modified that I forgot to update the description for. Paralysis duration enchant. Oh, that was an enchant. Okay. That one's already covered. We're good. We are good. All right. Stat container. Oh, I'll just change this to avoid confusion. Okay, let's see. Is this not used? That's not used, okay. Combat log manager. Reduced turns to seconds, magnitude, remaining of target card string by magnitude. Oh, reduced, reduced cooldown of what? This is just cooldown remaining of target card strings by description utils dot turns to seconds magnitude. There we go. Okay, that should be fine. So I'm sure I've probably missed something in here, but that should be good enough. Okay, so now we need to do speed. Where is this used? Reduces remaining cooldown of by description utils. I think even this is going to be a lot clearer in there. Okay, is that it? So I probably missed something somewhere, but I think that's good. So now we can do something like, we could just do a quick test here. We'll grab the, what does the bell do actually? The bell resets. Let's do exact case match. Okay, resets the cooldown of... Oh no, that should be fine. Yeah, that actually should be fine. Okay, so let's just do this. Let's do that with add item incense. Reduces the remaining cooldown of adjacent allied minion cards items by 0.2 seconds. Now I'm actually going to need to... I forgot to do this. Speed, I need to look for all the places where abilitybuilder.speed is used, and I need to increase that. 30, 12, 6, 6, 3, 9. Self-turn cooldown modification. Let's also look where this one is at, because I'm going to need to update that as well. Turn cooldown increased by 8, so I need to update this one as well. So the base penalty is going to be 24. Cooldown increased by Description utils dot turns 2 seconds. What is it called? Base cooldown penalty. Okay. Self-turn cooldown increases. Utils turns to seconds. Okay. I'm locked in. I gotta get into the chat though, and this is 30. Okay, all right. Yeah, you're welcome. It seems more solid than changing engine timescale. I try not to do the engine timescale thing if necessary because it does. I've used it before in one project. It was a project called Deathville, and the idea was that you're a skeleton with a machine gun and you're just going around massacring villagers. But there was like a bullet time where, you know, the player's speed would be normal, but everything else's speed would be controlled. And I remember that being just like a little bit buggy. So yeah, I try not to change the engine timescale if I don't need to. I think it's okay for things like hit stops, because I mean, I think you don't, like if you just want the game to freeze a little bit when you hit something, that's probably fine. But like I wouldn't necessarily orient like a game mechanic around that. It's just kind of like, a sledgehammer when you probably need a more, like if bullet time, for example, is going to be a core mechanic of your game, then it's probably better to do that in a more refined and directed and controlled manner than just like changing the time scale of the whole engine. But multiplayer can make a lot of complex because of a lot of cheaters. Yeah. What resources would you recommend for someone who wants to use Godot C#? Well, I have a course. I have a C# course on Udemy, which you can take a look at. And, but otherwise, the documentation is fine. I mean, if you know GDScript, then you can do C# pretty easily because the APIs are all the same. I like mundane work once in a while, yeah. What extension are you using for VS Code? Just C# and Dracula theme. Can you set custom emojis here? We need Snailcat. I can't. I don't know how Twitch works, but I'll figure it out. You missed a space when modifying Ability Builder. Where? Are you talking about here? There isn't supposed to be a space here. Because this toQuery string will insert a space if the string is not empty. Hello Polaris, welcome. Good to see you again. Apart from signals? What's apart from signals? Hello Nathan, welcome. Okay, so we need to do the tactics manual. And the whetstone. So I'm going to need to update the tactics manual and the whetstone. Reduce cooldown by description utils turn to seconds. Okay, Friar self-turn cooldown modification. We'll just make this -3. Actually, I wonder if I should just make this -3 by default. Cooldown is reduced by cooldown reduction ability get base magnitude for each adjacent. Yeah, I think that's right. Snailcat. Cooldown is reduced by base turn cooldown reduction is -6. That might be a nerf because I'm also just only increasing it by 0.1 or reducing it by 0.1. So, but Snailcat is already very powerful, so it's fine. We'll just sneak a nerf into there. Now I'm kind of wondering, did I get everything? So Tactics Manual and Whetstone need to be updated. Okay, so let's go to Tactics Manual. All allied minion card item. That should be item. Cooldown is reduced by 0.3 seconds. Okay. And then the Whetstone. All weapon items have turn cooldown increased by 0.3 seconds and have 10% additional critical chance. Okay. Let's just take a look at everywhere else where I'm using the word cooldown. That's not the right search box. Can I do... Maybe I can do a regular expression here. Sundial. Sundial is the other one we need to address. I think I updated it here, right? Yeah. Sundial. Let's reword this. On combat start increases the cooldown of one random enemy item by 3.0 seconds. That's a little bit clearer. Okay. Allied weapon items. This should be 0.3 seconds. It should just be consistent with my numerical representation here. The API for C# for GT script, although it's much improved now than when it first started. Yeah. I got you. Cooldown, oh, is 10 or greater. Threshold. Just trying to make sure I get all these cases. I'm sure I will miss something, but... And this should be cooldown threshold there. Okay, so that's corpse pile. Eyeball. Okay. Turn cooldown enchant. Cooldown is reduced by... Turn cooldown -3. Private const int. Cooldown reduction. Actually... Okay. Alrighty. Okay, update. So I think I caught at least 95% of the cases. So I don't need to obsess over trying to get everything working. But there's a fleme now, which I need to update. Huh? Does this not work anymore? Bleed. Oh, I didn't update the fleme when I changed the... how bleed works, because I did rework how bleed works, but I forgot to update the fleme, so that needs to be actually separate. So let's get rid of this. Rework fleme to work with new bleed status. Okay, so we can call that one done. We're good to go there. Let's see. So we got to rework fire. I haven't figured out how to rework the fire status yet. So for context, I've been reworking all my statuses to make the combat a little bit less bursty. So I've got a number of levers to pull when it comes to bleed, when it comes to poison, all that stuff. But the next thing that I really kind of want to work on is I want to think about removing event tiers. So I think event tiers is one of those things where the reason event tiers existed in the first place is to kind of incentivize the player to go further along in the free roam map. But now that the map is directed, I actually don't think I need to surface the tier information at all. And I also don't think that there needs to be explicit bonuses for certain tiers. So for example, if you get to an artifact node and the artifact is tier 3, what that does is that gives you 2 free rerolls. But I actually don't think that's necessary anymore. Because again, that tier system where the events become stronger the higher tier they are, again, that was to incentivize the player in the old free roam map to continue moving upwards because you would get more powerful things there. So I think what I might do is I might just remove the event tiers entirely. I will keep the event tiers where it's necessary. So for example, like boosters need to drop higher tier cards or items, and shops also need to drop higher tier items. So I can still use the tier data to control that, but I just won't surface it to the player. And then anything else, like the card upgrade, like I don't know if it's necessary to restrict the card upgrade anymore. Like that's the only one that's like, do I still want that? Because like the card upgrade, the way it works is that you can only upgrade a card that is less than or equal to the tier of the upgrade node. So I can't upgrade a tier 3 card or item at a tier 2 upgrade encounter. And that just prevents the player from just upgrading one item immediately. So I mean, there is a more explicit way to do this, which is that, you know, the upgrades in the first region can only upgrade to tier 2, and then the upgrades in the second region can only upgrade to tier 4, and then the upgrades in the third region can upgrade to tier 5. That would be a more explicit way of doing it. But yeah, does anyone have any thoughts on that? Did you hear that Slay the Spires 2 Godot project got decompiled? Could be a huge resource for other devs. I have. I've actually seen several YouTube videos now where people are going into the source code and examining it, commenting on it. It'd be kind of interesting for me to do a code review video on Slay the Spire 2, but just joined to say I'll come here soon when I'm home. All right, sounds good, Fireblast. Welcome back. Hearing you say Fleme, it makes me think of the Rick and Morty, how they do it bit on Plumbuses. Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. Do you have any recommendations for learning Godot and GDScript? I tried YouTube videos, but I get bored of them fast. I mean, I don't think. I mean, what's the problem there? Is the problem that the YouTube videos you're finding are not helpful, or is the problem you're not having your attention grabbed by them? Because like I don't think there's going to be a magic, learning resource for Godot that just keeps you engaged all the way through, especially if it's like in any depth at all. But if you're just not getting through the YouTube videos, if they're not compelling to you, the next best thing to do is just to do trial by fire. Like jump into a Godot project yourself and try to make it on your own and like use your own ability to read resources and Google to figure things out. But you're doing it in a very self-directed manner, right? You're not sitting like in a lecture style and like trying to absorb information. You're actually going and doing it. That's the way that I like to learn, ironically enough. Like I am not the kind of person that will ever take a course to do anything. I realize that I'm making courses, but I like to learn in a trial by fire manner. I like to just get into it and try to figure out what I'm doing. And I will research or look up the very specific thing that I'm trying to do at that moment, right? I'm just not the kind of person that likes sitting and following a course or following a class for hours on end. Like that's just not how I like to learn. So maybe you're the same way. Maybe you just need to go in and do it. You know what I mean? I think that's fine. Tiers are largely unneeded now. Like you said, restricting by region is a good way to start that. The real question is, how do you communicate that restriction? Yes, that's also the problem. GD Quest. Yeah, GD Quest is good, for sure. Maybe the upgrades could have a blood cost that increases with tier. Yeah, that could work, because that is a problem. I don't have as many blood sinks anymore. So maybe adding a cost to the upgrade is a good idea. GD Quest was great for helping get past the you don't know what you don't know phase and get into basic game development of multiple genres. That's actually I wonder if that would be a good idea for a YouTube video, like here's what you don't know about Godot, right? And then I go in and I just like try to unlock as much unknowns for people as possible. I wonder, there would be a demand for that, I'm sure. Now I can work on projects and have a decent idea of what I need to do, and if I don't know, I at least know what I need to Google or ask LLMs. Right, yeah, exactly. Firebelly is a good resource. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, I'm gonna take a quick 3-minute break here real quick, and then when I come back, we will think about removing the tiers for all these things. I think I will take Ninja Link's suggestion of only allowing 1 enchant on an item at a time. And then maybe there can be like an artifact or something that increases the enchant cap. I think that would be a good way of doing it. So yeah, we're gonna knock the tiers out, I think. Try to simplify everything as much as possible. Basically where I'm at with Alchemortis is like, I just need to get this game like hyper streamlined. Like all of these extra features and mechanics that are hard to explain and aren't clear what they're doing. It's just like, I'm just going to take an axe to those things and just like streamline it. Reduce the information load on the player, reduce the number of things that are happening, and like really dial in on like the whole point of the game, which is like, you're trying to create a synergistic build, right? We don't need to be worrying about like, what is the node tier of this event and like, what does the tier mean for that event? Like, we're just going to cut all that stuff. We're going to get it nice and simple. And I think that's going to work. So anyway, I'll be right back in just 3 minutes. And I'll be back in 3 minutes, and I will also be back in 3 minutes, I guess, is what I was going to say. BRB. Alrighty, I'm back. I still don't understand back buffer copy. That's a tricky one. The thing that I got tripped up with on the back buffer copy, which I will never forget because it tripped me up for quite a while, is where in the world is that? I actually don't remember where I'm even using the back buffer copy. Here. So this back buffer copy, if you're using the rect copy mode here, it says, okay, which rect do you want to copy? That is not, even though this is a node 2D for some reason, that rect value is not relative to the node's position. It's the viewport position. So it's basically the rect representing the area of the viewport that you want to copy to the back buffer. Or that you want to grab from the back buffer. That was the thing that tripped me up the most, because it's like, it's supremely confusing because this is a node 2D, and so you're like, oh, well, if I'm defining a rect that I want to copy, then it must be relative to this node's position, right? Nope. That is not correct. So that's the main thing. I think it makes sense otherwise from the docs. It's just that one tiny detail is not very well emphasized in the docs. So anyway, there are some things that aren't obvious that you do have to learn, like what does body entered signal? Why does body entered signal send a node and not a body? Who knows? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good question. Are you saying that like the signal argument is a node and not like a physics body 2D? That's weird, yeah. Okay, so how are we going to remove tiers here? let's think about it. Let's think about it. So I think I'm just going to have to go through all of my events. Okay. Let's just go to my event state machine here. We'll just go one at a time. So set tier, free rerolls remaining. We will keep the free reroll stuff in place. Let me do this. We'll do update reroll cost on ready. Okay, we're gonna get rid of set tier here. Gonna get rid of this. Get rid of that. Okay, and then we'll get rid of this here. So I'm just going to go through all of my events first and get rid of anywhere where the tier is used. Now this one is fine. Boss event state machine. That one's fine. Overflow, combat rewards. That's fine. Enchant event. What does this set tier here do? Can add enchant to card. We will do enchant count is less than 1. And then we'll get rid of this set tier here. Set tier, get rid of that. Get rid of this. Okay, enchant event state machine, that one's done. Event state machine context, grow board event state machine. I don't think I'm doing a tier here at all. Health event state machine. Now the health tier, that's the thing. The health tier is the thing where I'm going to need to... The more health it offers. So the problem here is, like, let's say that I have a path and both of the potential nodes I can go to are health upgrade nodes, but it's possible that one could be one tier and the other could be another tier. So I as a player don't know which one's stronger. But the thing is, like, maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay for the exact health upgrade that you're going to get to be a little bit of a mystery. Because that just kind of plays into the RNG aspect of it. Like, you go into a health node, and you know, generally speaking, that it's going to be more powerful than the health nodes you've encountered before. But you just don't know exactly how powerful it's going to be when you enter it. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's okay. There's no tier in here. Okay. Obelisk might need to be reworked a little bit. Set tier can remain here. Resurrection. Yeah, that's not... Yeah, none of this is necessary. Shop event state machine. Generate configurations. Tier is fine there. State utils. Upgrade. Yeah, so this one, the upgrade is going to be the most interesting one, I think. Card upgrade container. Let's get rid of the tier here. We'll just try not restricting it. Or maybe we could do it, like we could potentially do this to do restrict upgrades based on current node region, maybe. But for now, I'm just going to remove that. We're just going to try to simplify things quite drastically. So now my map node tooltip, we're going to get rid of the tier label wherever that is. Oh, somebody has started up a yard machine. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to go close my window. Okay. So we're going to get rid of this tier label here. Let's do tier label, get rid of this. Actually, maybe I don't want to do that because I still want so the tier label is only going to be visible if I have debug mode enabled because it's still useful. Anyway. Okay. Then the other thing I need to do is game UI. There's like a tier label that appears up here somewhere. I don't remember where that is though. When I go into an event, there's like a little text that appears at the top. I just don't remember. I don't remember where that is. So I go here. See how it says booster 1 up here? I don't remember where that is. Where is that? Is that in drawer UI? Where is that? Map container. Well, I guess I could go to my remote scene tree. Where in the world is that? Where is this text coming from? Oh, event. Oh, I have an event tier indicator. Oh, that would do it. It's in here. So we're just going to get rid of this. That makes sense. Okay, let's see. So now it should just say booster or upgrade or whatever. Tried the Born CG videos, but 27 videos is a lot. Use the body entered signal, then in your function you can't use body character body 2D, it has to be body node 2D. You have to check what the body is in the function. Interesting. Do you think it would be best if I learn on my own and just avoid tutorials? Yeah, potentially. Potentially. There were a lot of times where I was writing something like on body entered and it confused why it wasn't working. Yeah. Treat learning Godot like figuring out like a puzzle. Set small goals and try to figure out how to complete that goal. For example, how do you display a sprite on screen? Then how do you get it to move? Then how do you make it collide with something? Yeah. Yeah, you break it down into very, very small pieces that are easily solvable on their own, and then you can go from there. So we go to enchant here. Okay. Oh, I don't think my predictor UI is working anymore. So we'll fix that. But anyway, let's go to the run map generator now. Here we go. Maybe the maybe this default tier config should be 0 0 cap tier at max true, and then I can get rid of this. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Shop, enchant. We don't need that anymore. Artifact we don't need. Reagent we do need. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Is that right? So boosters, shops, and reagents are the only ones that have tiers now. I think that's good. Honestly, I may even just get rid of the reagent. The reagent one. So we're just stripping all this stuff out. We're going to get rid of all of this. Okay. Alrighty, so we've stripped tiers out of the game, except in the cases for like boosters and shops, because those things need to have the actual tier of the cards that are dropped updated. The health upgrade, I need to add health upgrade in actually, because I think I broke that. I think that's how it's supposed to be. So let's turn the, yeah, let's see. I usually find Claude is quite handy at finding some code that I described for me. Yeah, it is. Hello, Budget Jim. I did your GDScript course converting to C# as I went. This was before you'd released the C# course. Oh, very nice, yeah. Honestly, shops don't need it either. No, the shop... the shops do need the tier to change the card tiers in their inventory. So, like, yeah, the tier system is not... it's not really used for them anymore except to determine the drop tier of the cards in their inventory, so... Honestly, I don't even know if I need this booster text anymore. Okay, anyway, we'll figure all that out, but remove tiers from events. Okay. I'm sure I broke a lot, but we will break things and then fix them later. I will fix this board inspector, though. Huh? Description utils dot turns to seconds. Okay, let's see if that works. I just finished the multiplayer course. Thank you. You're welcome, Zachary. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got some use out of it. Okay. So I gotta improve the enemy board generation as well. But I think that's probably okay. All right. So this one is kind of a question mark. Rework Fleam to work with new bleed status. I need to do that one. Rework fire status. This one, I'm going to move this out of in progress. I'll do this later. So I did end up like kind of quote unquote finishing the run overview screen. So this is what it looks like. Got all your artifacts, cards, everything here. Got a little portal animation here, and this is the thing you click to go back to the menu, which is going to break because I'm running this scene as a standalone. But yeah, this is the run overview screen. I still want to do something to differentiate between victory and defeat on this screen. So yeah, we'll figure that out later, but that's the new run overview screen with the finished, quote unquote, finished art. Oh wait, I'm just noticing that there's something wrong here. Oops. There's something wrong. Why is that grass not visible? Oh, I did this wrong, I think. There's a little tiny issue here. Let's fix that really quick. There we go. So yeah, that's the portal. That's the run overview screen. Probably will add a little bit more art to this, but that's how it turned out. Turns was removed but not replaced by seconds. It was so fast I can't tell which file it was. No, that's because the description utils turn to seconds. Turns to seconds. This adds the second string in for me. And I can do an abbreviated version where it's just S or seconds. So that method that I'm using to turn the turns into seconds already does that for me. But thank you for pointing that out as a potential issue. Okay. So that's what that screen looks like. So we've got a bunch of new stuff now, just even from this currently running playtest. We've got the new resurrection mechanic. The turn cooldowns are now in seconds. The map size has been shrunk. The alchemy has been tweaked a little bit. And bleed has been reworked. Poison has been reworked. So I think I want to do a rework of fire. The problem is I don't really have any good ideas for how to rework fire. Because again, the core problem is that fire needs to be differentiated from the bleed status enough. So yeah, I don't really know. Don't really know what to do with fire, if anyone has any ideas. So the way poison works now is that it does very quick but small damage. Oops, I think I checked the wrong thing. How about removing 0.0 values that end in 0.0? I might do that, I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal. Because a lot of the time the seconds are going to have that decimal point, so I think it's better to just be consistent and always show the decimal. How do you differentiate between actionable feedback and feedback that doesn't align with the vision of the game? Yeah, so I mean, the actionable feedback is the feedback that is almost universal, the feedback that keeps being mentioned by people. That is feedback that needs to be addressed because it's a problem that keeps recurring, right? But then the feedback that isn't actionable is just like one person doesn't like a particular aspect of the game, or you know, I've had a couple of people come into playtest and say, well, I don't really like these kinds of games, so I didn't really like this one. It's like, yeah, at some point, like, there are going to be elements of this game that are specific to the genre that you either like or you don't. And then there are core mechanics of the game like the alchemy, which is like, you know, if the alchemy doesn't feel good to you for whatever reason, like just fundamentally, then it's like, well, there's nothing I can do about that. But if the alchemy doesn't feel good from like how it works standpoint, like it's not the fact that it exists as a feature, but it's the fact that it kind of works in a weird way, or like you were disappointed with an alchemy result when you were expecting one thing to happen and something else happened. That stuff is actionable. You know, and then I've gotten some comments like on the YouTube video, like, don't use black for the card backgrounds was one comment. Like, you should add a texture to the card backgrounds. I'm like, why? I'm not doing that. The black background is like perfectly clean and readable and clear. Adding a texture is just going to make the art muddy, right? So you do have to exercise your judgment a little bit, but if you keep getting a piece of feedback over and over and over again, that's like your giant, like, blaring red flag that, like, hey, you should address that in some way. So yeah. What if the fire dealt damage equal to fire when applied, then decrements by 1 every 0.1 second? While stacks are active, the board received reduced healing. That'd be interesting and different from the others too. Yeah. I mean, I want to rework enemy healing too, so I don't want to... I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting idea. I can show you how poison works here, if you're interested. So poison now just does a consistent, like, 1 damage. Until you get to that threshold. Wow, this thing is doing lots of damage to me. Hold on. Here's feedback. Don't use black for background on the cards. All right. Thank you, V. Appreciate it. So if I put some cards here, so poison works really well now because it just does 1 damage until you hit a certain poison threshold, and then it does 2 damage. So you still get rewarded for applying many stacks of poison. Like, see how my stacks of poison is consistently climbing upwards, but it's also decaying quick. But it's also not doing that much damage. Like, I've just gotten to where, well, now you can't see it, but I also need to make necrosis happen every, like, half a second or something. But, yeah, so the poison is interesting now. Poison is a lot easier to balance now because I have a bunch of levers I can pull for how it behaves. So poison will deal its damage every 0.6 seconds. But every time it deals damage, it just does 1 poison damage, and then it decreases the poison stacks by 1. So that means that you're doing 1 damage and decaying by 1 stack every 0.6 seconds. However, when you exceed a certain threshold, so in this case 15, so for every 15 poison stacks you have, it does 1 additional damage per tick or per execution, and it also decays by an additional stack. So you end up in a situation where, like, you get more DPS the more poison you stack, but it also decays faster. So it's still possible to get that build that starts applying massive amounts of poison, but it is not doing, like, huge burst damage. It's like, as you ramp up your poison, the DPS is going to ramp up, but it's kind of like, it's almost like a linear thing where it's like, it's ramping up very slowly and it's doing consistent damage over time, rather than you apply 200 stacks of poison, then it just blows up the enemy, right? And this is nice because I can control this, right? I can control the damage buff threshold. I can control the turn interval. So if I want it to have less DPS, I can just turn this turn interval up. If I want it to be harder to get to those high stacks of poison, or at least harder to get more DPS out of the poison, I can turn this damage buff threshold up. And of course, I can also introduce artifacts that modify these things, right? And then bleed works very much the same way. Damage per consumed stack is 3. So whenever you hit an enemy that has bleed, it consumes a stack and then does additional physical damage based on that stack. But for every 5 stacks of bleed you have, it consumes an additional stack and does additional damage based on it. So basically, when you hit something with physical damage that has bleed on it, you're doing 3 additional damage per consumed stack, and the number of stacks consumed is 1 plus, the stacks divided by 5. So if I have 5 stacks and I hit something that has bleed on it, that's going to do 6 bonus damage, but it's going to consume 2 stacks. So anyway, these numbers are not final, but this is the way that I'm reworking the statuses, where they're still useful. It's still beneficial to stack up a lot of that status, but it becomes a lot less bursty. And bleed has now become also an augment for physical damage rather than just like the enemy killing themselves. So bleed now is a status that is designed to augment any physical damage that your board is doing. So I'm kind of want to do something in the same vein as fire, but it needs to have a unique identity. Feedback: game opens every time I turn on my PC and fast forward 2 hours. Please fix. Yeah, that's good. It's a feature. Don't fix it. Maybe I should introduce microtransactions to get you guys super addicted to giving me money. How does that sound? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. That's not happening. There's not going to be any microtransactions in Alka Mortis. When the playtest ends, Monday. So you have a couple days still. Hello, Blue Sky Greenfields. Welcome. It ends tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Monday. That black background feedback gave me an idea. How about a kind of shrouded effect for enemy cards? You can see the card. You can't see the card until battle starts, therefore making it harder to counter the enemy. That is an interesting idea. I mean, before I do anything like that, though, one of the major pieces of feedback is like nobody was really taking the time to understand what the enemy boards were doing because they're so large. And so that's kind of where my thought of like, what if I just compress everything down comes from. Like, I make the runs shorter. I make the board sizes a little bit less available to you. Shrink the enemy board sizes down to a more manageable set of items on the enemy board. Shrink the ability slots on items down so that like abilities are just a lot scarcer to begin with. Like basically just bring it like I feel like there's just too much of everything right now. And so what I want to do is kind of like compress everything, like make everything more scarce, make everything more understandable, more digestible. And then hopefully that will go a long way into, number one, making your builds more meaningful, where like you feel like getting that one ability on an item is like super strong and like that's gonna help your build out a lot, versus just having all these empty ability slots and just throwing a bunch of stuff on them, right? So yeah, I think I've nailed down the problem. I think it's just like there just needs to be more scarcity. There needs to be less of everything, but everything should scale proportionally with that, right? It's not like the enemies are going to maintain their strength and then you're just going to have like this anemic power growth. It's more so like your power growth and the enemy's power growth is going to be brought down a couple of pegs to hopefully create a more streamlined, digestible experience where, like I said, getting that one ability in your build should feel really impactful and like get that dopamine hit. Like, yes, that alchemy worked exactly how I wanted it to. So we'll see. But I think, yeah, just like I think less of everything is kind of the approach that I'm taking right now. And I hope that will work, but we'll see. But anyway, that shrouded idea, that can only really be workable if players are spending time reading the enemy boards to begin with, which is not currently happening. People just go into the combat and hope that they're doing enough DPS to kill the enemy. So yeah, you need to try it tonight. Never look at the enemy cards anyway. I'm immune to worries. This idea, yeah, that's the problem, right? I'm also thinking about getting rid of the trigger node blessing system. Card booster packs easy. I was waiting for the microtransactions. Any border variations to distinguish between the cards? Macro transactions, yeah. No, there are not border variations. I mean, I could do that maybe, but Battle pass when? The info overload is huge, yeah. Your game art looks cool, thank you, I appreciate that. Hello, Yito, welcome. But I love it when my board is big. Yeah, I know, it's just like... Yeah, I mean, I think there's just too much of everything. I'm just trying to create a more streamlined experience. And a lot of that could just be fixed by shrinking down the map even more, you know? Instead of a run taking an hour and a half, what happens if we cut that in 50%? What if a run takes 45 minutes instead, you know? Because that's still a decent amount of time to like get a build going. Like, I don't want to be in a situation where like your build is just getting started and you win the game, right? I want the players to be able to get to a point where like their build is locked in, and by the time they get to end game, like the only thing left to do with their build is like make incremental improvements to it. That's where I would like to get to. Right now, I think most people like they get 1 or 2 powerful items early on in the run, and then it's just like game over from that point, basically. So, yeah, we'll have to figure that out. Having very meaningful abilities is cool. I feel Slay the Spire 2 did it well. Having Corrupted or reducing energy cost by 1 feels great. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Slay the Spire, like, you have a very small amount of energy by default. And since you have a very small amount of energy by default, getting an energy cost reduction of like 1 feels like a huge improvement, right? It feels like a massive buff. How about artifacts that are a one-time activation? For example, you click the artifact and it blinds the enemy board for X turns. That could work, yeah. Is there any way to group control nodes into a single texture like canvas group for controls? You can use a canvas group with controls. The problem is that breaks the flow, right? But you can put controls under a canvas group and it will work. Honestly, I think an hour is a pretty good average target for runs. That's the enchant feature for Slay 2. Enemy boards are kind of funny. You could have some algorithm that categorizes their strengths like damage, status counter, but I can imagine that being quite tricky. I don't know if it's that tricky, because I do have this prediction thing, and so maybe what happens is this prediction thing just goes away. And because right now the way that it works is, what happens under the hood here when I do the board inspector is that it creates a shadow copy of the player board, so whatever's on your board currently, and then it actually simulates a combat between this board and that shadow board, and then it gets all of the data from that combat and formats it as text here. There are a couple of quirks with that though, because like it simulates it every time, and so that means that like if you have crit chance on an item, you may open this one time and it has no crits, and then you may open it a second time and now it's got the crit damage. But I think what may be more appropriate is just to like do what you said. Instead of doing an actual simulation, I could do a simulation combat against an empty board and then just kind of take a threshold value. And I could say, you know, if it does more than X amount of damage, then I could just mark it as like damage heavy, right? If it applies more than X amount of holy, I could say holy heavy. If it does a lot of healing, I can say healing heavy, whatever, right? Or I could simplify it even further, and I could just provide a heuristic to the player like, this enemy board is going to be very difficult to beat against your current board, right? Or this enemy board is going to be very easily beatable. Now, I don't know if that's going to trivialize the game too much, but I definitely think like this enemy board, enemy combat predictor thing needs to be streamlined. I don't know if I want to provide exact numbers. I think what I'd rather do is just do what you said, like summarize, like this board does a lot of healing, or this board does a lot of damage. And it can be like up and down arrows, right? Like healing up, damage down, right? Or something like that. That doesn't fundamentally solve the problem of players not wanting to read the enemy abilities, though, which is why I'm interested in just making enemy boards smaller to begin with. So like, I feel like this kind of board size is kind of approaching the point where it's too much to read. But certainly, like, when we get into this third region here, well, actually, those seem kind of reasonable. Like, this one may be a little bit too much to read, right? But, you know, maybe it's not. I mean, this is the result of having already compressed the map as well. So there's just less power overall on the entire map. Because, again, this map is, like, 25% reduced compared to the playtest map. So previously, there was, like, 300 total map nodes. Now there's, you know, whatever that math works out to be, 225 map nodes roughly. I mean, I can look at it actually. So we've got roughly 65, we'll just call it 65 nodes per region. So yeah, that's like, you know, a little bit around 200, right? That's around, am I correct in that? If we do 3 times 70, that's 210. Yeah, so it's like a little bit less than 200, I guess. So that's actually more like a 30% decrease in the map size, but that may just be this map specifically. There's still some variation in how the maps get generated. But yeah, so we're talking around like a 30% reduction in the map size, which I think is going to go a long way. And we could translate that maybe into like a 30% reduction in run time as well. Find myself ignoring them most of the time, yeah. Having to expect them one by one is a lot sometimes, yeah, it is. I didn't even know about the prediction thing. Enemy board complexity, could you somehow tell before the battle how an enemy board is going to fight? Something like deals. Yeah, that already exists in the game. It's not a very well advertised feature, but that already exists. So I could go here and like see damage over 9 seconds, 22. Damage over 9 seconds, 1 damage. Wow. Okay. Damage over, or status over 9 seconds. Applied 16 armor. Right. But I think making this even more generic is probably the way to go. Yeah. I found that whenever I lost combats, I go into the combat log and see what the enemy items did the most damage status effects. Then I start to recognize items in the future. Yeah. Would it be possible to decide what kind of build the enemy will use in each node prior to generating it? That way, instead of having to analyze the traits of the battle, you could just place different types of enemy builds to ensure a good variety of combat possibilities. Yeah, I mean, that is definitely possible. I think the problem is that I'm trying to keep the enemy board generation algorithm as hands-off as possible, so that as I add new and unique abilities to the enemies, the enemy board generation algorithm will just factor those in automatically. The other problem too is like there are some abilities that don't neatly fit into those categories. So for example, turn cooldown reduction, right? Or I guess it's just cooldown reduction now. Like that's kind of like a wild card thing, which is going to be useful in any kind of enemy build, right? But yeah, maybe just saying like damage, heal, holy, you know, just like saying that those are the broad categories of enemy boards. And then just like super biasing the enemy board towards choosing those kinds of items is good. But then it's like there's a question too of like, what happens if I introduce an ability that's like deal healing based on the damage dealt, right? Then it's like, well, if that one is going to be like biased against in the generation algorithm, then will that ever show up in an enemy board, right? So it's like there's a lot of considerations to make. So I have a couple of ideas for how to address that. I mean, I think the minimal effort thing to do is just to ensure that it doesn't have too much of any one thing. So I could say, all right, this already has like 4 different healing items and the board size is only like 5 by 5, right? So maybe now we start like biasing extremely against healing items or something. Or what I could do is I could prevent, well, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot going on here that it's very tricky. It's not super straightforward because of the nature of the abilities, you know? Because like you can have weird abilities like this one only heals if there's an adjacent healing item, right? So if I put that item on the board and then I say, oh, that's too many heal items, then it may not actually have any effect. So it's kind of difficult. It's kind of difficult. I also think there's no real value in reading the enemy board since there's no real counter strategy. Right, that's the other thing. Like, auto battlers, like, you don't know the enemy board ahead of time in auto battlers. Like, auto battlers are basically just about maximizing your board's potential. Which I guess you could say is kind of like a weakness of the auto battler genre. But, like, even in games like the Bazaar, it's like, you know, you're going up against an enemy. You don't... I mean, you might have, like, I think you have a stash in Bazaar, so you might switch out, like, one item to accommodate an enemy that you're fighting, but yeah, there's no such thing as, like, rebuilding your entire board for a specific combat, and I don't want that to happen anyway, because that's going to be just a slog, right? It's going to be, like, having to manage all different board configurations and slot in the right one at once. Like, that's not the direction I want to go. The game is really about, like, just squeezing as much potential out of a build that you're going for as possible, and ideally making it so that either you have an opportunity to avoid combats that are going to be counters to that build, or your build is just like so min-max that like nothing can stop it, right? But it has to take quite a bit of effort to get to that point. Is that true though? Because I thought it was PvP. So, like, you don't know what a player board is going to be, right? Like, the bishop was a menace for me on a few runs, so now when I see the bishop, I check if I'm relic heavy on my board. So, on balance, on the playtest, that you don't really need to look at the enemy boards most of the time. I'm here all the time, and I had no idea that should be a message or tooltip in the battle screen. I mean, it's here. There's a little inspect. There's a little inspect thing right there. But, yeah. We have to work on that. Enemy boards with confused would be difficult, so you want to avoid them. If you have a ton of relics, then bishops will likely just kill you. Love to see boards that lean more into different types of mechanics. Swarm is a good example, where it's very rare to see enemy boards that bias towards it. Yeah, and part of that is like there's just not a whole lot of swarm enemy cards. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I ended up shoving the group controls into a sub viewport and replacing them in the UI with a sub viewport container. It worked like a charm. Oh, yeah, that's a good way to do it. The players know, but normal PvE combats do. Gotcha. I think having the battle summary on hover would be better than having the item list. Yeah, I would need to pre-generate that, though. I don't know if it's a good idea to, like, do that combat simulation on hover every time. But I think that would be fixed if I just did a more generic, like if I knew right when the board was generated, like how heavy it was on healing or damage or whatever, I could just cache that information, store that information in the configuration object, and I just surface that on the tooltip. That might be the way to do it. But yeah, I gotta give this some more thinking. For sure. You'd only have to do it for visible nodes, not the whole map, I think. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot to think about, but I'm feeling pretty good about these changes. The next thing that I kind of want to, well, I still need to refine the alchemy some more, but I'm almost thinking about removing the dust again, the dust currency. Just make alchemy cost blood again and just leave it at that. Just trying to streamline everything as much as possible. Try not to overcomplicate things. So yeah, dust may be disappearing again. We'll just return to blood only as the only currency in the game, and then it's used for everything. I'm gonna miss dust, but that's okay. But I have to think about that some more. Definitely got to think about that some more. Anyway, lots to do. Lots to do. Rework fire status. I like how we didn't make any progress on that, but that's on. Dust will live on in our hearts and souls. Yeah. Anyway, I will figure out how to rework fire, and then I'm going to probably do a bunch of my own playtesting with all these changes, just to see how the game is feeling. We still have the problem of trying to figure out how to give items a clearer identity. And I don't know what I may do. I was thinking about just giving every item an innate ability, but instead of writing new abilities for everything, I would just take like for example, the skeleton warrior. Instead of giving it like, you know, a unique innate ability, I think I would just make it innate here. So damage.set is alchemizable. False. So I don't know. I have to think about that some more, but I do like the idea of doing something like that to increase the identity of everything. And what that would also do, that would have the side effect of reducing the ability slots too. So I wanted to make ability slots a little bit scarcer as well. And I think that will just be automatically accomplished by just adding an innate ability to every item. That's just going to reduce its natural changeable ability slots by 1. What other changes are you considering based on feedback that you have received? So I obviously need to change the tutorial. That was a big problem. There's information overload, which is a huge problem. Honestly, I think basically everything that I talked about should go a long way to either directly or indirectly addressing a lot of the feedback. Because that's the other thing too, is like the weird thing about making a game is that you can change one system that like indirectly fixes another issue, because it's all like intertwined. Sorry, I'm just pulling up something. So I have all of your feedback here. Let me bring this over. So I have all of your feedback here in this giant document. I've just been copying your Discord messages and pasting it here. It says it's a 59-minute read. And then what I did is I fed that into Claude to help me pull out the most common pieces of feedback. So this is just a little bit easier for me to read as a summary. So yeah, tutorial onboarding, that's a big issue. Resurrection, people mention this a lot, but I've already addressed that. That's just not in the current playtest. Board space upgrades are very powerful, but I'm hoping that that will be knocked down a peg just by reducing the overall power of cards through the ability slots and whatnot. Runs feel decided too early. Again, that's something that I mentioned. Bunch of language changes. This is just stuff, but you know, bleed being an issue, again, that's already been reworked. Cooldown reduction is a little bit too strong. So I think with the inflated cooldown reduction numbers, or the cooldown numbers that I have now, plus the fact that they're expressed in seconds now, is I can actually like make the cooldown reduction items a little bit less powerful, and that could still have a huge impact. It's just going to be a lot harder to get like those machine gun builds, I think. Rod of Asclepius, like there are just things that were pointed out as just being too strong, which is fine. Those are just like number tweaks, right? So I can definitely do that. I still don't like how Holy is working, because Holy has the potential to just blow you up. Enemies have too much healing. Echo is the best effect in the game. Good in every build, which is fine, but I think maybe just reducing how often Echo is available is fine. Yeah, this is alchemy related. Resurrection, yeah. Physical damage builds are underpowered. That was kind of the point of the bleed rework, is to make those stronger, but I may also just up the raw damage for those things. Gotta go, good luck with the game launch. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Fire needs a stronger identity. Anti-minion prevalence is too much. Oh, did I not give armor? Lasts for 6 seconds. I think that's fine, actually. So maybe armor needs to be reworked in the same way, where it has diminishing returns over time, but I don't know for sure. Poison was reworked, so that's fine. There's a bunch of quality of life things here, which is fine. Regions don't feel meaningfully distinct. So basically, like, I think the vast majority of the stuff that's been summarized here is going to be stuff that I'm going to address. Now, like I said, a lot of this will probably be addressed indirectly by a lot of the other changes that I'm making. So for instance, I'm expecting that physical damage builds, even with just the bleed change, are going to be a lot more viable now, even without buffing physical damage directly. Regions don't feel meaningfully distinct. This is something that's only going to be doable when I add more content to the game. Like, I definitely think that doing like region exclusive events or like dynamic map changes would be nice. Difficulty spikes feel inconsistent. Again, I think that this is just largely because like there's too much power swing in terms of the player power. I don't know where this one came from. This is kind of irrelevant. I think it was probably, Claude was probably picking up on people comparing the playtest to the last version, so that's not relevant. And then item identity problems. So anyway, I think this is a good summary. I did read all the feedback as it came in, but just to get it summarized in a nice central place. I've got it here. So yeah. Anyway, I'll probably be addressing the vast majority of the stuff in this, either directly or indirectly. So there's a lot of work to do. There's always a lot of work to do. But we're getting closer. Every playtest gets a little bit closer, which is good. I have not yet, knock on wood, released a playtest that people said was a step backwards. I mean, one person did say they liked the previous playtest better, but that was largely because of the alchemy changes. But anyway. That is going to be it for the stream today, though. I got to go get my McDonald's. I am very hungry, and I'll be working on this stuff this afternoon off of stream. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. It's always very much appreciated. You still have time to try the Alchemortis playtest. It's available from the Steam page, so you can go to the Steam page using the link below. You can also support me on Patreon, join the Discord, all that good stuff. And yeah, thank you all for trying the playtest. I'm happy to report that Alchemortis now has over 3,000 wish lists from the playtest and from the video, which is great. And also, there are over 1,000 playtesters this time around, which is really good. So yeah, thank you all for the support. Thank you for trying Alchemortis. Thank you for providing your feedback. It's very much appreciated, and like I said, we're going to get the game into a really good spot. Like, this game is not going to be done until we're all feeling like it's a very compelling and, you know, addictive in a good sense game. So yeah, we're going to fix all these issues. And eventually it'll be released, but we got to fix the issues first. Anyway, thanks again, everyone. Have a good day, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye-bye.